You need to meet Jessica. Jessica Dishon. Imagine a small, quiet town in Kentucky, a place called Shepherdsville. This is the kind of town where everybody knows everybody, where people grow crops, work hard, and leave their doors unlocked. It feels safe. Jessica was born right there. She was the oldest of three kids, with two younger brothers. From a young age, she was the responsible one, the one her parents could count on. Think about it. While her friends were playing, Jessica was helping her mom and dad, looking after her brothers. She wasn't just a big sister, she was like a second mom. And she had a dream. It wasn't a huge dream, it was simple, it was real. She wanted a car, specifically a red Pontiac. So at 15, she got a job at a local restaurant. She worked hard, saved every dollar, and a couple of years later, she bought it. That shiny red Pontiac was hers. It wasn't just a car, it was freedom. It was proof that if she worked for something, she could get it. Now, why does this matter? Because it shows you who Jessica was. She was smart, great grades. She was responsible, never missed work. She had plans. She wanted to go to college and become an accountant. She even had a new boyfriend and was happier than ever. Jessica wasn't the kind of girl who just disappears. She was the kind of girl who had her whole life right in front of her, which makes what happened next even more terrifying. Let's go to that day, Friday, September 10th, 1999. It starts like any other school day. Jessica's parents leave for work early in the morning. She is still asleep. Her little brothers get up, head to the bus stop, and go to school. Jessica is home alone. She is supposed to drive her red car to school a little later. Simple, normal. Now picture this. At around noon, Jessica's mom comes home, and right away, a strange feeling hits her. You know that feeling? When your brain tells you something is wrong, even before you know what it is. The first thing she sees is the red Pontiac. It was parked right there in the driveway. But wait a minute. Why is the car here? Jessica should be in class. Her mom's mind starts racing. Maybe she overslept. She walks into the house. Jessica? Silence. She checks Jessica's room. The bed is empty. Okay, don't panic. Maybe Dad gave her a ride. She calls her husband. No, he says, I went to work alone. Now the worry starts to bubble up. Maybe the car is broken. Jessica's mom grabs the spare key and walks outside towards the red Pontiac. And that's when she sees it. That's when the bad feeling turns into pure fear. The driver's side door is open, just a little. She looks inside, and what she sees is a nightmare frozen in time. On the car seat is Jessica's cell phone. The screen is lit up, and on it are two numbers, 9 and 1. Someone was trying to call for help, 911, but they didn't finish. Her mom looks down. On the floor under the seat is one of Jessica's shoes. Her keys are there too. In the back seat, her school books, her work clothes, her purse. Everything she needed for the day was still in the car. Everything except Jessica. This is the moment when families' world shatters. Why does this matter so much? Because there aren't just random items. This is the story of Jessica's last moments. The phone, the shoe, the keys. They are screaming that she did not leave on her own. She was taken. So, what do you do? Your daughter is gone. You found this terrifying scene in her car. You call the police. You expect sirens. You expect detectives. You expect help. Jessica's parents did not get that. They called the police. They explained everything: the car, the phone, the shoe, and the sheriff on the other end basically shrugged. He told them she probably just wandered off. She will be back. Wandered off? Without her purse, without her keys, without a shoe. She lived on the edge of town. Was she supposed to hop for miles down the road on one foot? It made no sense. Jessica's parents begged him. They said, "Our daughter is in danger. Please, you have to help us." But the sheriff refused to even open an investigation. He left them completely alone. Imagine that. Imagine screaming for help, and the one person who is supposed to help you just turns their back. So they did the only thing they could. They started making their own calls to family, to friends. They started their own search. The next day, Jessica still wasn't home. Her parents went back to the sheriff. This time, he finally agreed to send two officers. Finally, some help, right? Wrong. This is where it gets even worse. Think of a crime scene like a brand new page in a notebook. The clues are the writing on that page. You have to be careful not to smudge the ink. These officers, they smudged everything. They walked up to Jessica's car and started touching everything: the door handle, the steering wheel, the phone, with their bare hands, no gloves. Any fingerprint the kidnapper might have left, wiped away. Any clue, contaminated, gone forever. They didn't even bother to look in Jessica's room. Why am I telling you this? Because this wasn't just a mistake, it was a disaster. In the first 48 hours of a missing person case, every second counts. Every clue is precious. It is like you have a single chance to find the treasure, and the people with the map are using it to wipe up a spill. The police had failed, not once, but twice, and their failure meant that a girl who might have still been alive was losing time. With the police being useless, Jessica's family had to become the investigators. Her dad and her uncle, a man named Stanley, led the search. They knew the area. They focused on a creepy spot near a local river, a place known for trouble. They searched for hours. Nothing. Then something truly bizarre happened. The next morning, Jessica's little brother was playing in the yard. Suddenly, he runs inside, his eyes wide. He says, "I heard someone scream for help. It sounded like Jessica." Jessica's dad grabs his gun and runs outside, his heart pounding in his chest. His brother Stanley pulls up in his truck and joins him. They are desperately looking for the source of the sound. And then they see it: smoke. It's coming from their neighbor's farm. A 40-year-old man named David Brooks. As they get closer, they see him. He's standing over a fire pit and he's burning something. It looks like clothes. This is weird, beyond weird. Your neighbor's daughter is missing and you're in your backyard burning things? Jessica's father asks him, "Can we search your farm?" Brooks says no. He tells them to get off his property. From that day on, Brooks started acting even stranger. He would drive by Jessica's house really slowly and just stare at the family with this creepy smile on his face. They started getting silent phone calls, just heavy breathing on the other end. They were sure it was him. So they go back to the police again and tell them about the fire, about the creepy behavior. This time, the police actually listen. They agree to bring search dogs to Brooks' farm. The dogs, trained to find people, go straight to two places. First, the fire pit where Brooks was burning things. Second, a shed on the property. Inside the shed, the dogs found a pair of black gloves, and they signaled that the gloves had the scent of death. But here is the frustrating part. Even with all this, the police found no hard proof, nothing that directly tied Brooks to Jessica. Later, the FBI would take over the case, and they would find something even more alarming on Brooks' farm. In one of his sheds, they found a printed photograph of Jessica. Think about that. The strange neighbor who acts weird, burns clothes, and has gloves that smell like death. Also has a photo of the missing girl hidden in his shed. It has to be him, right? The police thought so. The FBI thought so. Jessica's family thought so. They had their monster, or so they thought. For 17 days, Jessica's family lived in a special kind of nightmare. The kind where you wake up every morning hoping and go to sleep every night with your heart broken. Then they got the call. A woman was driving down the road near the same river they had searched. She saw something near a tree, something that didn't look right. She got out of her car, walked closer, and realized she was looking at a human body. The FBI rushed to the scene. It was a young woman. Her body had been terribly hurt. There was a rope tied around her legs. Because she had been out there for so long, it was hard to be sure if it was Jessica. They asked her parents to come identify her. Her father couldn't do it. The pain was too much. But her mother, summoning a strength nobody should ever need, said she would go. Imagine her, standing there, looking at this horrible scene. At first, she couldn't tell. And then she saw it. A tiny detail on the body. There was a small tattoo of a butterfly, identical to her daughter's, in the exact same spot. It was Jessica. The news got even worse. The experts who examined Jessica's body found two devastating things. First, she had been strangled. Second, she had been alive for about 3 days after she disappeared. 3 days. Think about that. For 3 days, while her parents were begging the police to help, while the officers were fumbling clues, Jessica was alive somewhere. waiting for a rescue that never came. If they had just acted faster, if they had just listened, they could have saved her. Now, all their focus was on the neighbor, David Brooks. They arrested him. They put him on trial. The family thought, finally, justice. But it didn't happen. Remember how the first officers touched everything without gloves? Remember all the early mistakes? It all came back to haunt them. The persecutors had a lot of things that made Brooks look guilty: the strange behavior, the fire, the photo. But they had no rock solid proof, no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing that said he was there, he did this. It's like having a puzzle with 100 pieces, but the one centerpiece that connects everything is missing. And then another unbelievable mistake was revealed. When they found Jessica's body, some parts were collected as evidence. The local police were supposed to store this evidence in a refrigerator. The boxes were even labeled "Store in Refrigerator." They didn't. They left them out at room temperature. Any chance of finding the killer's DNA on that evidence? It was destroyed, cooked away by incompetence. The jury couldn't agree. They couldn't say for sure that Brooks was the killer. So David Brooks, the strange neighbor with the creepy smile, walked free. For Jessica's parents, this was the final blow. Their daughter was gone. The police had failed her. And now the justice system had failed her too. The case went cold. The years started to pass. 1, 5, 10. The file on Jessica Dishon just sat on a shelf, gathering dust. A forgotten story, an unsolved mystery. Years go by. Hope fades. Memories get covered in dust, just like that old case file. Then, in 2012, 13 years after Jessica disappeared, a new detective joined the local police department. Her name was Lynn Hunt. Her job was to look at these old unsolved cases, these cold cases. And the first one she picked up was Jessica's. As she read the file, she wasn't just sad, she was shocked, and she was angry. The paperwork was a mess. Reports were missing. Evidence wasn't written down properly. It was like trying to read a story where every other page has been ripped out. She realized she couldn't trust any of the old work. She had to start over, from scratch. So, where do you start 13 years later? You start with the family. Detective Hunt went to talk to Jessica's brother. He was a little boy when his sister was taken. Now he was a grown man. He handed her a box. He said, "The police gave this back to us years ago. It's the stuff from Jessica's car. Inside were Jessica's textbooks, her purse, all those things her mother found on that terrible morning. Her brother had kept them, safe, all this time." Detective Hunt looked at the box and shook her head. This was evidence. It should have been stored safely in a police locker for all these years, not in a family's closet. Another mistake. She didn't have much hope that these items would help now, but she took them anyway. A good detective looks at everything. She kept digging. She found the old report on the neighbor, David Brooks. She discovered something new. His IQ was extremely low, so low that he might not have understood the police's questions back then. His weird behavior could have been him being confused and scared, not guilty. Maybe everyone had been wrong about Brooks. Maybe the real killer was still out there. But who? After all this time, how could she possibly find them? Detective Hunt kept working. For 2 more years, she chased ghosts. Then in 2014, almost 15 years after Jessica died, the phone rang. It was another police officer. He said, "You're not going to believe this. I've got an inmate in state prison. He says he knows who killed Jessica Dishon." Now, Hunt was skeptical. You have to understand, prisoners often make up stories. They do it to get attention or to try and get a shorter sentence. It's usually a waste of time, but she couldn't ignore it. It was the only lead she had. So she drove to the prison. She sat down across from the inmate, and he started to talk. He told her he shared the cell with another man. They became friends, and one day his cellmate confessed to something awful. He said, "I'm the one who murdered Jessica Dishon." And then the inmate dropped the bombshell. He told Detective Hunt the name of the man who confessed, and when she heard it, the world must have stopped. The killer wasn't a stranger. It wasn't the weird neighbor. It was Stanley Dishon, Jessica's uncle, her father's brother, the man who had helped search for her. The inmate told her the whole sick story. Stanley had been hurting Jessica for years, in secret. He threatened her. He told her if she ever told anyone, he would hurt her or her family. When Jessica got a boyfriend, Stanley got scared. He thought she would finally tell her secret. So on that Friday morning, he went to her house. He found her getting into her car. He told her to break up with her boyfriend. She refused. She said she would tell everyone what he had done. She searched for her phone to dial 911. He grabbed her. He took her to an old abandoned shed. He kept her there for days. And then he killed her. The inmate knew details that had never been made public. He knew that Stanley had buried the bedsheets he used to tie her up. He knew where he buried them. He even knew that Stanley had buried one of Jessica's shoes near the shed. Detective Hunt now had a map to a 15-year-old secret. She went to the spot the inmate described, with Jessica's brother by her side. They dug in the dirt. At first, nothing. The next day they went back. They found an old abandoned barn nearby. They started digging inside, and then they hit something. It was a bedsheet, old and dirty, but it was there. Hunt rushed to Jessica's house. Her parents had kept her room exactly the same. A perfect, heartbreaking time capsule. She held up the sheet she found. The pattern matched the other linens on Jessica's bed. It was the missing piece. After 15 years of darkness, they had found the monster, and he had been part of the family all along. They arrested Stanley Dishon. At first, he said he didn't do it, but the evidence, even after all this time, was starting to line up against him. Jessica's father couldn't believe it. His own brother, the man he trusted, he went through waves of anger and grief. How could this be real? He remembered that day when his son heard the scream. He remembered Stanley pulling up in his truck right at that moment. He was so close. Was Jessica in the car, silenced, while her own father was just feet away? He remembered searching for Jessica by the river. Stanley had suddenly said he felt sick, and they had to leave. They were just a few hundred yards from the barn where he was holding her captive, alive. He had deliberately led her father away from her. The case was finally heading to court, but there was a problem. Just like with David Brooks, there was no DNA, no fingerprints. It was still a hard case to prove beyond a doubt. So the persecutors offered Stanley a deal, an agreement. They said, if you confess to everything, we will take the death penalty off the table. And Stanley, the man who had lied for 15 years, the man who had watched his own brother suffer, finally said yes. He pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He might get out when he is 71 years old. Jessica's parents didn't get to hear the full story from him. The deal meant he didn't have to share the details. They got a confession, but not the closure they desperately needed. So, what happened here? A story that began with a teenage girl's dream of a red car ended in a 15-year-long nightmare. It's a story of devastating police mistakes that let a killer walk free while an innocent girl's time ran out. It's a story of a family's unbreakable love, keeping a box of clues in a closet, hoping one day it would matter. And it's the story of one detective who refused to let a dusty file be the final chapter, who saw the justice and decided to start over from page one. The truth was always there, hiding buried under years of mistakes, and hidden behind the most unthinkable mask of all, the mask of family. Remember this story. Remember to look closer, to listen harder, because sometimes the most important truths are the ones hiding in plain sight. At the end, we told this story in the hope of avoiding the same shattering mistakes that led to a young woman's death. Maybe it would help someone in the future. You who is listening to me, help my word spread with a like and subscribe, and wait for more stories to come. Stay safe.